Roofing is one of those jobs you see all the time, right? But have you ever really stopped to think about just how dangerous it is? Falls are the single biggest killer in the entire construction industry, and roofers, well, they're on the front lines of that battle every single day. So today, we're going to break down this official OSHA guide to see the hazards and, more importantly, the life-saving protections every single worker is entitled to.
All right, let's kick things off with a number that'll really make you stop and think. 34%. According to OSHA's data over a 10-year period, more than 1 out of every 3 fatal falls in construction was from a roof. Let that sink in. For every 3 construction workers who died from a fall, 1 was a roofer. It's just a stark reminder of the stakes we're talking about here.
So that leads us right to this question. What actually stands between a roofer and a fatal fall? And the answer isn't just being careful. It's so much more than that. It's about a complete system of planning ahead, providing the right gear, and getting the right training. Let's dig into that. Okay, first up, let's take a look at this perilous profession through the eyes of the people who inspect it. When OSHA compliance officers show up on a roofing site, what are the most common problems they find? The answer tells a very clear story about where the real dangers are hiding. And boom, here's the data. And what's so telling is the pattern. Look at the top 3 violations employers get cited for. It's not about small stuff. It's the big 3. A failure to have fall protection, issues with ladder safety, and a lack of proper training. It all points to one single, overwhelming conclusion. The fight for safety on a roof is won or lost on preventing falls. So, if we know that falls are the main villain in this story, what's OSHA's core strategy to fight back? Well, it's not some 1,000-page rulebook. They've actually boiled it down to 3 simple, powerful pillars that form the foundation of any good safety program. And here they are: plan, provide, and train. It sounds almost too simple, but each one of these is absolutely crucial. Planning means safety isn't some afterthought you tack on at the end. It's baked into the job from the very beginning. Providing means the employer has an absolute, non-negotiable responsibility to supply the right gear for the job. And training, well, that makes sure the equipment isn't just a prop. Workers have to know exactly how to use it to save their own lives. You need all 3 for it to work. Okay, now let's get into the specifics. How do we actually conquer gravity? This is all about the toolkit, the actual hardware and systems designed to keep people safe. The piece of gear most of us would probably recognize is the Personal Fall Arrest System, or PFAS for short. Its job is incredibly specific. If a worker does fall, this system is engineered to catch them before they hit the ground or anything below. You can think of it as the last critical line of defense. Now, a PFS has 3 main parts, and you have to remember, the whole system is only as strong as its weakest link. First, you've got the anchorage point. This has to be able to support 5,000 pounds. That's about the weight of a small SUV. Then there's the full body harness. Simple waist belts, totally banned because they can cause devastating internal injuries in a fall. And finally, you have the connector, like a lanyard, that physically links the harness to that super strong anchor. But hang on, this is a huge point. The gear itself is not enough. The employer absolutely must calculate the total fall distance. I mean, think about it. If your lanyard is longer than the distance to the ground, what's the point? You'll hit the ground before the system even has a chance to kick in. This isn't just paperwork. It's a life or death calculation. And this slide highlights a really key difference in safety philosophy. On the left, you have a fall arrest system. It's reactive. It's designed to stop a fall that's already happening. But on the right, you have a fall restraint system. And this is proactive. The lanyard is intentionally short, making it physically impossible for the worker to even get to the edge of the roof. The goal here isn't to catch someone, it's to prevent them from ever being able to fall in the first place. Now, it's not all about systems that a worker wears. There are also physical barriers, kind of like passive protection. We're talking sturdy guardrails that create a literal fence around the work area, covers for things like skylights that have to be super strong and clearly marked, and even simple warning lines on low-slope roofs that create a visual do not cross zone, keeping people away from the edge. Okay, so while falls are, without a doubt, the #1 killer, they are far from the only danger a roofer faces. There's a whole spectrum of other hazards up there that need to be controlled. Let's talk about ladders, something we all use. The rule here is so simple, but it is so vital. Always maintain 3 points of contact. That means as you're going up or down, 2 hands and a foot, or 2 feet and a hand, are always on the ladder. It creates a stable triangle of support. It's that simple. Now, here's a hazard a lot of people might not even think about on a roof: electricity. You know what the single most common cause of electrocution is for roofers? Contact with overhead power lines. They're often way closer to the work area than you'd think. Man, working on a roof on a hot summer day means you're just getting blasted by the sun. Heat stress isn't just uncomfortable, it can be deadly. The prevention is incredibly simple, and it is 100% the employer's responsibility to provide it. Water, rest, and shade. That's the mantra. And of course, you've got power tools everywhere: nail guns, saws, you name it. They're essential, but you've got to respect them. That means all the safety guards have to be in place and working, and protective gear, especially for your eyes, is an absolute must. And finally, there are the invisible dangers. Especially on older buildings, when you're tearing off old roofing materials, you can release some really nasty stuff: asbestos, lead, silica. These things don't pose an immediate threat like a fall, but they require very specialized protection to prevent serious long-term diseases. So with all these rules and all this gear, it's easy to get lost in the weeds. But it's so important to zoom out and remember what this is all fundamentally about: a worker's basic human right to go home in one piece at the end of the day. This quote you see here, this isn't just some nice idea from a safety poster. This is the law. It's the core principle of the Occupational Safety and Health Act. Every single rule we've talked about, every harness, every guardrail, every training session, is built on this foundational right. And that principle translates into real, concrete, guaranteed rights for every worker. You have the right to be trained in a language you can actually understand, the right to be given all the necessary safety gear, and it can't cost you a dime. And maybe most important of all, you have the right to speak up about a hazard without being afraid you'll lose your job for it. These rights empower workers to protect themselves. We've covered a lot today, from fall arrest systems all the way to heat safety. Now you know what good looks like. So I'll leave you with this question. The next time you drive by a house and you see a crew working way up there on a roof, what are you going to look for? Will you notice the anchor points, the guardrails, the safe practices? Because that awareness, that's the first step toward making things safer for everyone.